How's it going, guys? It's Cole with See-Through Panel going over Demon Days by Peach Momoko, published by Marvel and retailing for $35 US. This is a very nice oversized Treasury edition. I didn't originally buy the single issues when they were coming out because I was hoping for a nice hardcover edition. Instead, we got this Treasury edition, so that's both a victory and a loss, I would say. It's much bigger format than we would have gotten, but it's also a paperback, but totally works super well for the story and makes it a bit more readable. Sometimes the hardcovers are a little stiff and you can't open them all the way, but this is really nice, Treasury sized, kind of like Silver Surfer Black got recently, and the History of the Marvel Universe as well got one. So this story is 5 individual one-shots, and then some content from King in Black and Elektra Black, White, and Blood, all by Peach Momoko, all on story and art. I don't know about the extra stuff from King in Black and Elektra, but in terms of this main narrative, story and art by Peach Momoko, letters by Ariana Marr, editor is Lindsay Koick, and Zach Davison does the English translation and dialogue, and they call it English adaptation, which I think makes more sense because a rough translation, sometimes things don't come across clearly, and considering this was made for an American audience, it makes more sense to put someone who can really go over the dialogue and all the exposition and every little bit of it to make sure it works well in a language that is not the creator's native language. So I like that, and I credit him with a lot of the things that could have been confusing. Same for Lindsay Koick here. I think this could have been confusing given less care than they gave it, but it seems they did a really good job. There wasn't any confusing things in terms of the story at all. So I will say I'm going to be flipping through it. I'm not going to be spoiling anything about the story with my words, but I might show you a page that spoils it. And so for that, if you're worried about that type of thing, go read this and then come back and we can talk about it. So this is basically as you can tell from page 1 here, a fusion of traditional Japanese like mythology in the beginning and the Marvel universe. So we have this Oni here. Story kind of goes all over with the yokai, and the Oni are a form of yokai. This is our main character, who I think is influenced by Psylocke, but here's the dog named Logan. The references to the Marvel Universe are sometimes very blatant, but other times very subtle. Like here, obviously, you've got a bit of... you could tell who it is. But maybe you wouldn't pick up on this being what I think is... it's not even said. There's not even use of powers, really, to say that she's Psylocke. And the dog being called Logan, he doesn't heal or anything. He doesn't do any of the other things you expect Wolverine to do. So sometimes it's super subtle. Other times it's really beat you over the head with it. Like this guy says Hulkamaru. His name is Hulkamaru, and he says smash, which is kind of strange, and I'll get to that, because there's a second character that also does the Hulk kind of vibe, which I thought was strange to do that. But this was all coming out over the course of a year, so I'm sure that some of it got a little bit twisted around and the story changed and evolved. This is another example of... I'll have to get sideways, the book's huge. That right there, I'm sure you can tell what that is. Another example of the Marvel Universe kind of seeping in here. The art, as you can tell, is watercolor for the colors, and from what I can glean off interviews and things like that on the internet, is this art is completely traditionally made, physically made. This original art exists. There's digital touch-ups here and there, but on the whole, she is doing this traditionally, which is really cool. I just love the idea of that, of her actually painting this thing over. Maybe not the best pages to go over the painting, but very expressionistic kind of manga influence on some of these faces too. She's good at doing realism, but she excels at doing these very expressionist. Like, I had to look at this for a moment to see that her brow is just ridiculously furrowed. Her eyes are down here and her brow is like all of this. The book is so large it doesn't fit into frame. Basically, it starts as a kind of feudal Japan type of era story, but then we go into the modern world, and it's the story of a girl called Mariko, who is, from what I can tell, entirely original, not based on any one thing, but I don't think. But he has really cool design for her powers and her kind of, I guess you'd call it a costume for cape stuff. A couple characters you might be able to glean who this is just based off the coloring here. A lot of original stuff too. What really is the draw for this is Momoko's art. The art is just awesome. It's not every day you get to see. This is all kind of cover-worthy stuff. You're getting on interiors. You're getting an entire book, like a pretty thick book of cover-worthy art, which is pretty rare. And the story is good and it's fun. I'll say it's definitely fun. It's nothing to write home about in terms of originality or breaking down the kind of superhero traditional narrative, but it's really good. I think it's fun. It definitely services the art. You can tell she's drawing stuff she wants to draw and then creating a story out of it, which I think is probably the way I would like writer-artists to go, because I'm more of an art-focused reader when it comes to comics. And so I would rather you draw stuff you want to draw rather than go for a really complex narrative that has a lot of talking heads and stuff like that. If that's what you want to draw, I'm sure it'll look great, but not everyone wants to do that sort of thing. And she obviously wants to draw just balls to the wall action, like a lot of the time. We're about to get to the costume. There's my really nice piece of design, I think. The jaw piece. Also, I needed to show off the cover in more detail. This is kind of a split of the two main, the protagonist and the antagonist of the story. You can definitely notice the watercolor when it comes to stuff like this. Kind of just like blobs of color here. Much more noticeable. Honestly, some of it looks like it's just traditionally colored digitally, which is really impressive if she did get that effect with watercolor. I'm not sure if she did entirely or if there's a digital touch-ups with the color or not, but really, really cool to see. I don't have a ton to say with this. I did enjoy the story, as I said, but really it's just kind of a way for Peach Momoko to say, I'm here working at American Comics, let me just knock your socks off with my art style. It's kind of manga influenced, but there's stuff in here that is, to me, looks like it's influenced by American comics as well. And I don't know how much she's invested in the Marvel kind of canon and stuff, but she seems to only really draw from it when it feels right, which is a good way to go about this. I'm sure you can see who these characters probably are here. I really love when she's in the forest and the backgrounds are all just beautifully painted. I'm wondering if the letterer probably put this in without any notes from Peach, because I know she's not a huge Marvel fan, and I don't know if she would have. I don't know. That's a very that's a staple for Thor for sound effects, but I'm not sure if that was her input or if that's just American lettering and Zach Davison saying that's what should go here. I'm not really sure. That's a really, really awesome panel. Just as an art book, I think this is definitely worth your time. It's $35. It's got a good amount of story. It's got some really, really beautiful art. Huge, huge spread here. The Treasury edition just makes it so big. It was really fun to read it because your eyes can just linger on this page for even longer. Like, you could basically zoom into this thing and not even know that you're like at a reduced size, and then pan out and it's just giant. Let's flip to some of the back stuff here. The extras, if you will, because it's really cool that they put this stuff together, because this actually isn't a part of Demon Days per se, but it's really nice that they put together the bonus stuff she did during the year this came out. Otherwise, there would be no home for it, really. This kind of fits in with the Demon Days story, but the Elektra one, more what I'm talking about, doesn't fit with the traditional, like, the Demon Days thing, but they had it and they just threw it in here, which they didn't have to. It was nice that they did that. Another one of those things about them being thoughtful, I think, with this collection. This is Elektra Black, White, and Blood, so it's just black and white and only reds. I'm not sure if she colored this herself or if this is also... Hey, it looks like she colored it herself. The red looks painted to me. A silent Electra story. Really weird. Really, really weird. It gets kind of bizarre and fantasy-like at the end. The guy just kind of dissolves. This isn't really a spoiler because this is... I mean, this is a short story found in a anthology book from like earlier this year. So, sorry if you really care about that, but guy dissolves into like a bunch of eyeballs, and then she collects a bunch of the eyeballs, and then goes to sell them to a guy. And then the coins just all turn to feathers. And then there's a like fox type creature that eats him. I mean, I don't really know. It's drawn super well, and it was really cool. I'm sure there's something here I'm missing. I didn't really put a lot of time into this backstory. It was kind of an afterthought for me, which I should go through and read it. There's really cool stuff on all the I think, yeah, Davison puts this together. All the text here explaining like mythology of the different stuff that appears here, like the Orochi is the venom snake, the Onis, there's a couple different kinds of Onis, and then there's some other figures, Fujin and Raijin, which are really, really cool in the story, the use of them. Ghost Onis, the Little Drunkard, I don't know where that appeared in the story, but this guy is a Marvel character, he's used as a Marvel character. I don't think I showed him off, but I should say there is what I was talking about earlier, since I'm not going to go back, but the one thing I'll say that was a bit weird was this guy, Hulk Maru. He has the whole Hulk vibe, but then later in the book they just do a different Hulk analog who's very much on the nose. He's a big green guy who says basically all the Hulk's lines, and it was strange. I don't know why you go for two different Hulk analogs. They were both cool, and they were both a little bit different, but it just felt weird to use the same character in two different places like that. But she's, I think, artist first, writer second, sorry. And she probably just had a cool idea for it. And I've changed my mind. I think I want to show before we stop. There we go. This is the other Hulk guy. And he has the whole transformation thing going on. So the Oni in the beginning, Hulk Maru doesn't. This guy goes from like a little baby with a seal on him, and then really cool looking transformation. Eye bulging out and the tooth growing even. Into this big dude here. So I really liked it. Like I liked both uses of it, but it just struck me as odd that she would go for that same thing twice. But regardless, it looked cool both times. Like it was used to cool effect. It was. I think this book uses the rule of cool as kind of a staple in it, and I like that because it should be fun first, and then it doesn't have to be like deep all the time. It's Marvel Comics after all. Like it's there's not a lot of heavy themes and stuff that need to be explored if you don't want to explore them. Obviously that stuff is good, but in terms of Marvel Comics, just go for it. I think give me cool action, especially with art of this quality. But anyway, yeah, I've been rambling on for a bit, so let me know if you guys read this and what you thought of it, especially this Treasury sized edition. It's really, really nice. I hope they do this with more of their series. So thanks for watching, guys. Peace.